Well, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Good, good. Well, thank you guys for coming out this morning. If we haven't met, my name is Adrian. I work on the small groups team. Thank you guys for coming on a Saturday morning. We really, really appreciate it. We are so excited for the fall semester. We know that you guys know there are a few changes that we're making. So Dave's going to take some time today to talk through that. We'll have times for questions, make sure you guys are good to go. But yeah, we're just grateful that you guys would come out to learn more about this new kind of idea for the fall semester. So just while I have you all here, who's leading for the first time ever? Anyone? Yay! All right, make sure you guys go and talk with them afterwards. How many of you are doing a community group this semester? Awesome. Yes. Some people are like, I think that's what I'm doing. How many are doing a growth group? Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. You're doing it all. Yeah. We're going to figure that out today. So, all right, well, I am going to get started just by opening us up in prayer, and then Dave will come and just chat with us. All right? Dear Jesus, I thank you so much for this new day that you've given us, Lord. Help us not to take that for granted. I thank you for every single one of these leaders, current leaders, past leaders, potential leaders. I just thank you that they would take some time to join us today. Lord, I pray that you'll just bless our time together, that we'll learn something new, and that you'll just be the center of everything that we do, not only here, but in our lives all together. And so we thank you for this time. Please bless it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Adrian. Isn't Adrian great? Yes. This, not just this day, but like groups don't happen without Adrian. So if she doesn't do what she does, nobody knows what they're doing either, including me. So we're very grateful for Adrian. So what I want to do is spend just a few minutes on the front end just in a little bit of review, because I was already aware of this, but then Adrian asked that question, and it made it more apparent that there's still some confusion about what's actually happening in our transition with groups. So I just kind of want to review that real quick, make sure everybody's on the same page. We'll do a few questions about that, and then we'll dive into some more tangible things from there, okay? So first, just to kind of review, what we're trying to do with small groups is we're trying to create a way to address kind of the two major tension points when it comes to trying to lead a small group, which is this idea of building community and at the same time discipling people. And what's happened historically is that there's been this real tension that drags between the two, where groups feel like, oh, there's this big wild swing into community, and then there's this big wild swing into discipleship, and some groups only just camp out in discipleship, and some only kind of camp out in community. And so there's this kind of weird dynamic. And when it comes to members or people coming to the church, attendees, trying to figure out how to get into a group, it just adds this extra kind of barrier and layer of confusion as to what are they getting into. Because we kind of present them as this one-size-fits-all thing, but that's not really how they've been operating. And so instead of trying to fight against that, instead of trying to like constantly bang our head against the wall, really, in trying to like fight that tension, we said let's recognize some of what's already going on. This is not like we went and dreamt up some brand new way of doing things. We looked at what was currently happening and said, hey, let's just formalize this a little bit. Let's just call it what it is. We've got groups that are meeting all the time. They're not taking breaks in between semesters. Nothing wrong with that. And they have really healthy community. And that's a really good thing. That's what they're doing well. And at the same time, there's leaders that are well gifted and drawn towards addressing specific felt needs in a more direct way. So let's bifurcate that and say, okay, this is what a community group is. A community group is a group of people that's not bound by a semester anymore. It's not you meet for 12 weeks and that's it. It's you make a commitment as the leader to say, I'm willing to lead for anywhere between 4 to 9 months. You get to pick that commitment. When we get to about a month before that, we're going to reach out to you. We're going to say, hey, how you feeling? How are things going? You want to continue, and you can re-up for another 4 to 9 months, or you can say, you know what, I need to step back and take a break. We're not trying to get you to commit for the rest of your life. We're still trying to make sure you guys can be healthy and take breaks when you need to, but some of you are like, I could go for a long time, and so we want to let you go for a long time. Because as you've probably felt, and I've felt when I've led groups, within a semester, you don't start to really get to know the people until week 8, and then you got 4 more weeks left. And what are you going to do with 4 more weeks? So if you can take the pressure off of that and just go, you know what, I got 4, 5, 6, 7 months. By week 8, I'm starting to get to know these people. Now we can hit the ground running, and we can do some stuff. So that's kind of a community group. The focus is on how can we build relationships. It's not that you don't disciple people. You 100% disciple people. 100% you're pointing people towards Jesus, caring about them, caring about their growth, 100%. But your focus is on how can we do this in a highly relational way. A growth group is something that's going to be semester bound. It's 8 to 12 weeks typically. It runs during what our normal semesters would be. And think of a growth group more as almost like a class, in a sense, a relational class, in that you're saying, hey, we're going to address this specific need in somebody's life. So the example I use all the time is Financial Peace University. That's a program that is highly focused on helping people address financial needs. Now, do people enjoy community while they're in the midst of that? Absolutely. But what they're primarily there for is to grow in their financial health. When it comes to things like divorce care, even with like grief groups, things like that, where it's like we want to highly focus in on this one topic so we can grow through it. And yes, you're going to experience community, but the focus is let's grow in this specific area. Does that make sense? Does anybody have questions? This is the time to ask your questions. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah. So the question I think is you kind of have an already established group that has a pretty good natural ebb and flow to it. You take a break when you need to. You kind of, I think, yeah, 100%. I think that's a community group, and that's totally fine. There's lots of groups here that already kind of have an established core. That's great. That's wonderful. We would certainly love it if there's some openness to new people coming in and invitations and things like that. But 100%, I think that's a community group. You're there for the relationships. Yeah, I know you guys are going to focus on a topic. But I think that's the heart of it is like as you build that initial community, you can choose some topics of discussion that maybe go a little further in than what you're used to or what you might do when you're initially meeting people. And then to answer the second question, which was about will attendees know what they're getting into, these will be distinguished on the group's website. So when you go to the first directory, it's community groups, growth groups, description of each, and so they can choose what they're going into. And when you go into community groups, that's all you see is community groups. Does that make sense? Jesse? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And that's one of the big hearts behind community groups is to take some of that pressure of, oh my gosh, I've only got 12 weeks. I've only got 12 weeks. I can't let somebody else lead. I've got to get through this curriculum. I've got to get through this thing. take that pressure off and go, you know what, I can take a week off. You know what, we could take a month off, and it's not a big deal. Like, you've committed to, say, 9 months. We're going to take the whole month of December off. Maybe we'll do a Christmas party together, whatever. But there's no pressure to, like, meet every single week because you only got 12 of them. We want to take that pressure off so you've got flexibility to just, within your community, what makes sense for you, go ahead and roll with it. And it's not like, well, we got to get through that, then I take 6 weeks off, then I start again. Like, you can still follow that if that's the rhythm of your group, but there's no, we're forcing you to do that. So, yes. Did you have a question?
When I registered, you list community groups and growth groups, but then there was freedom.
So Freedom is a truly amazing curriculum. How many people here have gone through Freedom before? The people that go through Freedom raise their hands really, really high usually. They're very excited about it. Freedom is an amazing curriculum that's really designed specifically to help you recognize and work through some of the inner stuff that's going on, that's in your heart, that's causing some blockages in your spiritual life, even in your emotional, mental, all these kind of things. Helps you work through that in a very spirit-filled way. It's a great curriculum. I would recommend every single one of you go through it at some point. We're really trying to build that up to have more offerings. This semester we've got 2 of them. We're hoping in future semesters. Those are distinct for a couple reasons. It's a very unique curriculum. And so in a way, it makes sense as a growth group, but in another way, it can very much be done in a community group as just a curriculum within that. The issue with it is that it has, part of the thing is that you attend a conference at the end of the 12, 13 weeks. There's a conference that happens that just is this very impactful experience that really solidifies the whole deal for you. So that conference is only offered twice a year. So you have to do it in one of our normal kind of semesters for it to line up with that. So that's why it's kind of a unique thing that we separate it, because it just has a bunch of unique characteristics to it that need to be unpacked separately. That makes sense? Yeah? Ish? Okay. Yep. It's amazing. I would recommend going through it. Nope. Never heard of it. It's so it was developed by a church called Church of the Highlands, and then it has spread all throughout. So the conference we go to is actually hosted by Freedom Church, which is in Bel Air. So they're the closest church to us that's doing the conference itself right now. So we kind of gleaned it from them because we have a pretty close relationship with them and their pastors. So, anybody else? Sandy? So Freedom will, it's not necessarily going to have its own separate category, but it will, at least to start, and this is, as we develop some things, it might change. But like, right now, at least the one I can think of with Cherie is she has a community group established. So that would be in the community group category. And then the other one, I don't remember what we decided. Community group. So they'll be in the community group session. There can be the option where somebody leads it as a growth group where they just say, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and then anybody who can come can come. In that case, we would put it in the freedom category. That might be something as we grow, we do create a third separate thing, but where we are right now, I think we'll just leave it just the 2. There's enough confusion with just the 2 that we'll wait to add a third. Any other questions about community versus growth groups? Ben. Yeah, I don't think it's that much different than what we've been doing. If you're full, and it gets marked as full, and that's it. But if you've got space, the part of the heart of this, one of the things we really want to work towards, is being a little more open to invitations, and we're going to talk some about that in a little bit, but being a little more open to having new people come in. One of the issues with that is when you're going through a semester and you've got this 12-week curriculum and somebody wants to join week 6, it's like, oh, well, we're already halfway through. How are you going to catch up? So that's part of why we want to be real careful about the topics you're picking as you do them to make sure that they are something that's welcoming. Now, if you're in a situation, you've got a group, your room's full, market is full. We're not trying to force people into your group. But we do want them to be available at all times if you've got room so that people can join when they do or when they can. Because that's been an issue, and one of the things we wanted to address. Somebody comes in, you're 4, 5, 6 weeks into the semester. Oh, well, you got to wait till the semester ends. And then, oh, wait, you've got to wait another 6 weeks after that. And then we'll start another series of groups. That's too long. That's way too long to try to, somebody who's like, I'm ready to get in community. Oh, yeah, wait 12 weeks. That keeps me up at night. I don't like that. I got enough things that keep me up at night. I don't need that one. So, does that answer your question? Yeah. Cool? Yes. Yeah. So there'll be a description, like when you see the two things, there'll be a description under each one that unpacks what it is. Yeah. And then a whole FAQ and video and, no, I'm just kidding. There won't be that. Live chat. We'll have live chat on there. They can ask questions, figure it out. Yeah, Phil.
On the website, will you separate these into community groups, leadership groups?
Yes. Yeah. They'll be distinguished. Distinguished? Yeah, that's the right word, right? Right-ish? Okay. Cool. Well, if you do think of other questions, please let me know. We do want to make sure everybody understands as we grow into this. With that said, I want to talk briefly on a topic, then we're going to take a break and we're going to let Freedom go kind of do their own orientation, and we'll continue with a few things. But I just want to talk briefly about what it looks like to try to fill your group. Now, some of you might be in the position, you've already got everybody that can be in your group. That's all well and good. For those of you that are like, I don't know who's going to show up, and I hope people come, I really want to talk through this. And then even for the future, for those that have established full groups, there's inevitably coming a time when you're going to need more people. So I just want to talk through this idea of how to fill your group. And part of why I want to do that is because historically, the trend, the number one way people have relied on to fill their group has been just their group page on the group's directory. We'll fill that out, we'll put it up there, we'll let somebody announce it from the stage or put it on social media or whatever, and then it's kind of like, if I build it, they will come. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't come because that's not the best way to fill your group. It's not. It's a way, it's a tool, it's helpful. Your group page, honestly, is primarily there to help you stay organized and know who's who, to be able to take attendance, to be able to send messages out to people, all that kind of stuff. It's not primarily there to just be this advertising location. It can do that, but it's not the best way to do that. So what is the best way to do that? Quite honestly, the best way is just personal invitation. It's just being a person. No. I mean, you need to be a person, but it's being a personable person. It's just being a person. Like, if that's all it took, that would be great. I'm human and alive, and people join my group. No, that's not how it works. It's being personable. It's being relational. It's being somebody who's saying, hey, I want to invite these people in. I'm going to think through. I'm going to pray through. Who are the people in my life that I know, coworkers, friends, family, people at church, maybe you serve on a team, whatever it might be. Who can I, from that group, can I invite in? And then even like neighbors, how can I start to do that? And so thinking through, praying through, who are these people? Low-hanging fruit, so to speak. Who are kind of those initial people? So one of the things we've done specifically with community groups is you no longer have to wait till one of our normal launch times in the year to launch a group. You can launch a group whenever. Like, we're going to launch here. Like, signups are going to open up tomorrow. But if you're not signed up to lead a group right now, you could sign up 2 days from now. And if you've got 5 people, your foundational 5, if you've got people that you say, hey, we're ready to meet, we're going to go ahead and launch your group right then and there. We're going to get you started right away. Because you shouldn't have to wait 12 weeks to be able to start a group. You should be able to start right when you're ready. But we put that foundational 5 piece there because we want to make sure that you're in the mindset and in the skill set to be able to invite people and gather people and get people connected and be able to launch in that fashion. Now, I say that, and I know I've had a few conversations with some people that maybe have smaller groups. They're just naturally smaller. Maybe it's the curricula or like whatever the topic is just has it's a little more niche. It's a little more of a smaller pool. 5 people is a general rule of thumb. If you're in a position where you know you're probably only going to get 5 people, we can certainly have a conversation about it being 2 or 3 or whatever. But 5 is kind of the general rule of thumb for a more typical type group. And we want to see that. We want to do that because that should be our mindset in building community. That community is not merely found. I'm going to say this over and over and over again, so get used to it. You don't merely find community. Yes, we can put things out there and people can find it through going to the website, or they can find it by just happening to run into somebody. But real community is ultimately built. There has to be an effort put into it. There has to be hey, I'm going to take a step towards this. I'm going to put the effort. I'm going to be intentional about reaching out, making the invitation, being okay with somebody saying no, and then making the next invitation. I'm going to seek to build this community, and I'm going to seek to find people that can help me build this community. And so I'm going to put the work into it. I'm going to invite. I'm going to open myself up. The second kind of part of this that goes with it is this idea of being an anchor, like being an anchor here on a weekend. You're the kind of person that you're going to sit where you sit. You're going to be where you normally are. Maybe you're roaming the hallways. Maybe you're always in the same seat. And you're going to be an anchor in that place that you are. You're going to be looking around and you're going to be trying to grab hold of people, not physically. Don't physically grab hold of people unless you're giving them a hug. But relationally, you're going to be this is my home, this is my spot, and I want to I've found community, I've found the benefit of community, and I want other people to experience it too. And so I'm going to be the kind of person that's relationally anchoring my spot at church. Does that make sense? I'm going to be thinking, who's sitting next to me? Who do I see every single week? I'm going to start a conversation with them, even if it's not just about inviting them to your group, just to have a conversation with them. Because that's what we are as community builders. Whether it's about filling your group or just building the church community, be the kind of person that's going to be reaching out, saying hi, connecting people. Even if they can't make your group, you're helping them find another group. You're helping point people in the right direction, providing next steps, doing all that. We want to equip you for that. We want to help you through that. But that really just comes down to you being an anchor here. Make sense? Any questions about that? Yeah.
Just a comment. As you were talking, I was thinking about this because sometimes when we're in church, everybody's in a hurry to leave, and you see someone you want to talk to, but they're talking to someone else. A really good place to talk about it is in the men's group and the women's group, because we're around, at least the women, we're around the table.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's already committed to at least once a month.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You would hang out afterwards for a few minutes. So I just
Yeah.
suggested that's a good place to meet somebody that you can say, have you joined this?
Mm-hmm.
And then what are your interests? And
Yeah.
then point them in the direction.
Sure. So like LH men's, LH ladies, young adults. I don't know that anybody here is a student, but there are those opportunities. Whether maybe it's CR, those kind of things. There's other events or ministry nights that are happening are great places to do this as well. That if you're participating in those can be maybe more prime opportunities because the people are committed to being there already. They're usually willing to linger a little bit longer. But it's the kind of thing that like just trying to think through intentionally. Going, okay, if I want to do this, I might need to get here 5-10 minutes earlier than I normally do. I might need to be able to plant myself in that spot a little bit earlier so that I can be aware of who's coming in and who regularly sits in this area and who can I connect to. And then maybe I need to be intentional about mixing up where I sit from time to time. I mean, hey, I'm in the same boat. I'm a creature of habit. I like to have the same seat. And like, even when we have meetings here, like, I like the same seat. And even if there's different meetings that happen in the same room, I have a seat, and it might be a different seat in different meetings, but that's the seat I'm going to take for that meeting. I'm a creature of habit like that, but sometimes you got to mix it up. I'm always going to sit here. When it comes to department head meeting, I'm always going to sit in this spot. When it comes to discipleship meeting, I'm always going to sit in this spot. I just have this thing in my head. So I get that. But this takes that extra step of intentionality to go, I'm going to be a community builder who's going to be an anchor, who's going to invite people and yes, try to fill my own group, but also try to build community here at the church in general. Is that good? We in alignment there? So it's just saying that, okay, what do I have to do to get out of the house maybe a few minutes earlier? What do I got to do to be a little more prepared, a little it can be a little frenetic and frantic. Did I make up frenetic? Sometimes I make up words. That's a word? It felt right, but at the same time it felt wrong, I was a little unsure. Coming in, you can just kind of be like, oh, I got to get there. I got to do it. Like, what can I do to prep myself in the car before I start walking in so I can be present? I can be where my feet are. I can be right here. I can be aware. And coming in with the mindset of, yes, I'm here to experience Jesus and be filled up and receive, but at the same time, I still have something to give in being able to help connect people. So invite, be an anchor. Another way to fill your group is, this is going to sound so simplistic, but just lead well. Like, be a good group leader. That kind of thing gets around. When people are like, I love my group, my leader is so awesome, they care about me so, that kind of stuff spreads like wildfire. That's organic. That's grassroots, like people getting excited about, hey, so just lead well. Be a good leader. Do what you got to do to be healthy as a leader, to care for people. If in your group it's just, okay, how can I get through the meeting? How can I get through the meeting? How can I finish the curriculum? That's why we want to, with community groups, kind of let's get away from this rat race of the curriculum so that we can care about the people, so that I can be present for the people and show them care. And you show somebody care, and that stuff, that'll go viral. And people will be drawn to come to your group because you're that kind of leader that they want to be around. So what does that look like for you? I don't know. You've got to do some assessment. We've got some tools for that can help you assess kind of where you're at, spiritual health, mental health, emotional health, all that kind of stuff. And then how that flows into your influence, how that flows into being a leader that we'd love to walk through with you. So invite, be an anchor, be a good leader. And then lastly, last resort is group page. That's the last resort. You want to take care of that. You want to make sure that's got a good, clear description, good, clear picture. Good picture makes more difference than people realize. You got a weird picture up there, like a fuzzy, dark, strange, or like just some random sunset or something, like a good, clear picture. This is who you are, like that shows a vibe. You know what I mean? Like a good picture can make a big difference in people being like, yeah, I'm interested in that. It might seem a little superficial and surfacey, but be real with yourself long enough to assess if you were trying to find a group. What are you looking for? You know what I mean? Like, are you going, nope, that's weird right off the bat? Because we all do it. We all do it. Hey, I'm not saying it's right necessarily. I'm just saying we all do it. And so take the time to think, what's the picture look like? We provide for you a title format that's meant to keep things real clear and simple for everybody to be able to find what they're looking for. So we don't want to mess with that too much. We want to keep that pretty simple. But your description, is it clear? Does it help unpack the heart and what you're trying to do in your group? Your picture, is that showing a good vibe that's attractive to people? That sort of thing. You want to take care of that stuff and keep that maintained. Another thing, as Ben brought up about these pages being open for longer, is doing the maintenance work of making sure your roster is accurate. You might have people that sign up initially and they never once show up. You've got to figure out. My rule is kind of 3 strikes. You've got to figure out what your rule is. If somebody signs up and doesn't show up for 3 weeks and I've reached out to them 3 times and they just aren't communicating anything back, I'm removing them from the group. I've given them opportunity. I've reached out in multiple ways. It's not being mean. It's not being rude. You got to do what you got to do. Because you want that to be freed up so that it does show that you have open space. Or if you're full and it's not showing that you're full, you want to make sure you take care of that so people aren't constantly asking to join your group and then you've got to tell them, oh no, we don't have room. Make sure that stuff's accurate so that when people do go to look, they're finding what they need to find. Okay? Ken. So if your group is marked full or closed, it is already preset that it removes those from the listing. So that's what I'm saying, though. If you're full, if it shows full, but you're not actually full, nobody's seeing your page anymore. It's not on there. So you want to make sure that that's accurate. If you've got space, adjust it so that it shows. But if you are full, but it's showing you've got space, people are going to be making requests, and so you want to make sure that's accurate. So it does automatically filter that out. As you get marked full or closed, it removes that from those pages until you're open again. All right? Let's do this. Let's take, we'll just take a couple minutes, and then anybody leading a Freedom group, you're going to go with Jessie. Jessie's raising her hand right now. And are you going there? So you're going to go to the old admin area. She'll take you there. And then the rest of us will pick back up in about 5 minutes. All right? All right, let's start making our way back. All right. I don't know if we're all here, but close enough. Yeah? I don't know. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so one quick thing I want to mention that Greg here reminded me of, and it kind of goes a little bit hand in hand with the, be a good leader so that news spreads that you're a good leader. But you can also be real intentional to just, encourage your group members to invite people as well and kind of spread the intentionality. Yeah, bring a friend. Always have an open chair for everybody. So that's definitely an option as well. Yeah. So growth groups are a little bit different. I'll start there. They're a little bit different just because they are formulated a little bit more like a class that, maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks in, you could still, but I know for FPU even, that would be a no-go at that point. You'd have to wait till the next time. With a community group, the hope would be, you would just be able to at any point integrate them into, what you're doing. But again, and I want to, and you guys have picked what you've picked so far. That's fine. It's been approved. But as you're thinking through it for future things, just thinking through that initially, especially initially as you're starting, what are you starting with in terms of what your topic of discussion is? If you're starting with something that's real, you got to be there from week one, kind of. You've got to, it's not bad. It's just, you have to recognize that it is a little bit of a barrier. It does put up a little bit of a challenge of integrating new people as they start to come in. So that's why I so highly recommend starting a new community group with sermon discussions, because you can jump in at any point. There's no, oh, we got to catch you up to speed, or you got to read 4 chapters in a week, or anything like that. So, but I think you can, you've got to do the little bit of work to integrate them into the community.
And just to add on to that, what if they are new? Do you know if we're offering a new group?
We do not have a new to Lighthouse group this semester, but they do go through things like growth track and stuff like that to be able to get some of the basics of that. So, yep. Any other questions from the first session before we move on?
Will the group guides just constantly, there won't be a gap in group guides anymore?
Yep. Starting September 10th, they will be ubiquitous. That I know is a word. I don't know if I used it right, but it's a word. Yeah, they'll be ongoing. So pray for me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm getting some help with that. Okay. So I want to talk about something that we talked about back in January, but I want to keep reiterating it. This is another thing that I think you'll hear a lot of in the coming weeks and months, is this idea of, specifically as we're looking at building community, recognizing that there's really kind of 4 layers of community. There's kind of really 4, you could say depths, but I like layers, and none of them are necessarily bad. They're all normal, but we really want to keep trying to push as deep into those layers as we can. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, but we want to recognize what they are, and then I want to talk a little bit about what are some things we can do to help take those steps towards those deeper layers of community. So, kind of first layer of community that everybody starts at, everybody kind of initially on their journey into community starts at this layer of just simply connection. That the first layer of community is connection. It's this desire to say, I need to connect others to me. I need to be connected to other people. They feel that need. They go, oh man, I need other people in my life. I just need to connect with people. That's kind of the first layer of community. Pretty much everybody starts there at some point or another. Now, you might have been at another church or something. You were in groups. You started it at that place there, and now you come in and you're like right away into the second layer. That's totally fine. But pretty much everybody starts with this recognition of, I need to be connected to other people, or I need other people connected to me, because they recognize the need for protection or support or love or encouragement or whatever it might be. They just recognize there's something missing and that people can help with that. The second layer is what I would call contribution. And so the second layer goes from, I need other people connected to me because I need this, to an idea of contribution, which says, I have something to offer to other people, that I can contribute to this community, that I have something to bring. Like I can speak, I can pray for people. I can throw out an idea or a prayer request, or I can, whatever it might be. That I have something to contribute. That's another layer that takes a different kind of recognition of why you're there. And I think if you've been leading a group for any length of time, you've probably seen the difference between these 2 layers of somebody just coming in because they think they need something from this group, and then them coming in going, I've got something to give. I've got something I can offer. I'm interested in being engaged in the process. That's a big difference. Usually, somebody at Connection is kind of there for the meeting. Maybe they get there a couple minutes early. Maybe they stay a couple minutes late, but they're there for the meeting and then they're done. Somebody who's in this contribution layer is maybe they're a little bit earlier than that. Maybe they're staying a little later. Maybe they're asking, hey, can I bring something? Or they're speaking up and asking to pray for somebody, or hey, I've got this thought about this part of the topic. They're willing to engage in the discussion a little bit more. That's a different layer. And the difference between that layer isn't really that much. It takes a mentality shift, but it's not a big leap. It's not a big leap for somebody to go from showing up to being engaged. It takes a little bit. You've got to be intentional, all that kind of stuff. Not a big leap. The leap from the second layer to the third layer is a little bit bigger, because you go from connection to contribution to the third layer being this idea of authenticity. This layer of community called authenticity, which is saying it's not just I need you and I have something to give as well, but it's saying I'm willing to be open and honest about who I am, where I am, and why I am. Like, I'm willing to kind of bear that to you. I'm willing to be vulnerable. Not just, oh, I can pray for somebody, or, oh, I have a thought about that. But, hey, here's who I really am. That's a bigger leap, right? That takes a little bit more. Now, there are some people, and you may or may not have experienced these people, there are some people who are willing to go there right away. Like, they're like, week one, blah, here's who I am. I'm not necessarily talking about that. That's not necessarily authenticity. It could be. There might be some people who are just primed and ready to jump in like that. Unfortunately, a lot of times that tends to be a little bit more, or can tend to be more based off of wounds than any kind of real authenticity. That's sharing out of wounds rather than scars, and there's a big difference there. You share out of wounds, you bleed all over people. You share out of scars, you have some comfort to give. You know what I'm saying? So people that just come in and bleed all over people, that's not necessarily what we're talking about with authenticity. That's not, yes, they're being open and honest, but it's not really getting where we're trying to go when it comes to build community. That's more, let's triage and let's find help and walk through this together. Authenticity is just this idea of, I think I talked about this at some point. I forget if I did or not. But the word integer, anybody remember what the word integer means? What's that? Whole number. It means to be whole. It means to not be a fraction. Authenticity is this idea of being an integer, being holistic, being whole. Not whole in the sense of being perfect, but not being like, I'm going to hide over here, or I'm going to mask up here, or it's being willing to be honest and real, be a little more transparent. It's vulnerability, but it's not, again, bleeding all over people. It's not, I'm just going to share all my dirty laundry. I'm going to tell you everything my husband did or said this week. I'm going to tell you, like, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this ability to just be real and go, like, for a leader, for instance. Authenticity is not pretending like you've got it all together and you know all the answers. Authenticity is going, you know what, that's a great question. I can't say that I know the answer to that. But you know what? I'd love to go search for it together. Like, that's authenticity. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And it's okay that I don't know. What I'd love to do is walk through this journey of discovering it together. That's being authentic as a leader. For somebody coming in for community, being authentic is going, man, I struggle. I got this issue here. And not that they have to tell every single detail about it, but that they're willing to be open and honest and go, man, I really struggle with that. Could you pray for me? Like, that sort of thing. That's what we're talking about. So that's kind of like this third layer of community. Like, when you're getting to the place where group members are really being able to be authentic and show a little bit more about who they are, there's a real sense of community that's really being developed there to be able to be comfortable. Like, those are things you start to be able to tell family, right? Like, you start to feel like you're family together. What's that? Yeah, vulnerable. It's a big part of that. The fourth layer, and this layer is, it's the ideal, it's the goal. It's also a little bit of the unicorn. Like, it's It takes time to get to this place. It takes intentionality to get to this place. But it's the place we're called to as in Christian community. And it's this idea of commitment. That this fourth layer of community is commitment. It's a commitment to one anothering one another. That Scripture is full of these references to us one anothering one another, love one another, endure one another, like be patient with one another, greet one another, like all these different things. I think it's like 59 or something like that, different references to one anothering people. But this takes true commitment. Like this is the Acts 2, and they met together daily. They broke bread together in one another's homes. They sold things to support one another. Like this is a commitment to I'm going to one another you, and you're going to one another me. It's a beautiful place, quite honestly. It's the goal, the ideal. It takes a lot of authenticity. It takes time. It takes the Holy Spirit. It takes God working in people to really knit hearts together. And so the promise is not, and not necessarily, like the goal of your community group is not necessarily you've got to get there. You can get there, I think. I think that we want to get there, but you don't have to try to force getting there. That's going to take, like I said, it's going to take time. But it is a beautiful place to aim for. It's a beautiful place of going, man, if I was in a community of people that loved me that way, encouraged me that way, protected me that way, and that I could do the same for them, that when a need arose, like I'm so committed to you that I'm willing, whether figuratively or physically, to sell something to help you. That's a beautiful kind of community. And so that's kind of that deepest layer, right? So you've got commitment, contribution, connection, contribution, authenticity, and commitment. Does it make sense? Any questions about that? Ben? Mm-hmm. Multiplying. So, I'm going to get to that. I am. And if it's not sufficient, ask me again in a few minutes. We're going to cover that in a second. Anybody else? Nope? Okay. So I think the question then is, all right, if those are what the 4 layers are, if that's kind of what we're looking at, if that's what we're trying to build and work through, then how do we do that? How do we help make a progression through those different layers to get to what we're looking for? I'm so glad you asked. I just happen to have an answer right here. So I want to talk about this idea, and we've talked about this before, that as group leaders, one of your main roles is that you're opportunity creators. One of your goals is to create opportunities, to create these moments. There's real power in certain moments that can create a catalytic change in people and can create a catalytic change in a community. That there are certain moments in the life of a community that can like almost instantly galvanize to a different level a community, right? Like you go through, like an example I think of on a large scale would be something like 9/11, right? Like that was a catalytic moment. That was a moment in history that instantly bonded together an entire nation that was rapidly moving towards more like the division that we currently see. Those were the early stages of this current division. But in that moment, there was this, nope, we're all together, right? And now, obviously, that's a large scale. I'm certainly not talking about creating 9/11. I hope that's not taken out of context. Somebody's going to put that on a video somewhere. No, but I'm saying there's these certain moments that can create this accelerated transformation, this accelerated digging down into the layers. And so as opportunity creators, we're looking for moments that we can put in front of our members. Now, we don't have control over whether they take the opportunity or the opportunity does anything. Our goal is just to keep putting the opportunities in front of them and praying the Holy Spirit's going to do something with it. And so some of the things that I would say in terms of how do we create these opportunities to take these steps into deeper layers of community, one would be just to model it. Just be a model of it. Like if you're looking out at your group and you're going, man, it just seems like a lot of people on the connection layer. What does it look like to model for them what contribution is? To put them in position, to create opportunities for them to be able to contribute. Like, here's an example. One of the things I started doing when I lead groups is when we take prayer requests, instead of just writing them all down and then me just praying for them all, as they're asked, somebody says, hey, I got this prayer request, I'm praying for, my mom, this or that. I ask somebody else in the group to take that prayer request right then and there. I say, hey, you're going to pray for that. And you can either do it right then, have them pray right in that moment, or you can have everybody kind of save it up and you do it at the end. So you go around, maybe there's 5 prayer requests. I'm connecting one request to a different member of the group as we go around. That creates an opportunity of contribution. Creates an opportunity for somebody to maybe step in, and there's some people who might be a little uncomfortable with that. And you got to read the group, read the room. Like some people you can push a little bit into it. Some people you got to give them their space, let them sit and marinate for a little bit. Maybe a couple weeks down the road you give them a request. You got to read it, don't force it. But that's a way an opportunity to create for people to move from just purely connection to now actually being engaged in contributing to another member of the group. Make sense? That's an example of an opportunity to create that, an opportunity to model and create an opportunity for people to move that layer down. If you're trying to get your group to move from contribution to authenticity, well, you've got to model authenticity. You've got to show them what it looks like and how it can be beneficial. So you've got to take the step to bear a little bit more. Again, you're not trying to just dump your dirty laundry in front of everybody, but you're trying to just be a little more authentic, a little more vulnerable. Hey, look, I struggle with this, man. I don't have this all together. I don't understand that. Or, you know what? It took me a while to learn that. I went through some bumps and bruises. Here's some of what I had to go through to get to this point. Like just being willing to be authentic and model it for people. So that's kind of one way to create an opportunity. Another thing is this idea of create collisions. The owner of Zappos, who I cannot remember his first name, but his last name's Shea. I can't remember his first name for the life of me all of a sudden. Anyways, Zappos is a very, everybody know Zappos? Yeah? No. Okay, one person in the back. Very successful company. Very successful company who was doing online retail and all this stuff and like some of the best customer service in the world. And not only the best customer service in the world, but some of the best employee culture in the world as well. Huh? Tony Shea. That's it. Thank you. I knew it. I didn't know it, but now I do. Tony Shea. So he's super kind of interesting, eclectic dude. But he's done some really intentional things along the way to build that great employee culture and to give this kind of freedom to his customer service reps to just like send people free shoes when something's not quite right and like just make these kind of in the moment decisions to be able to do stuff. Now, we're not doing customer service. We're not handling phone calls. That's not what I'm talking about. But he has this idea amongst his staff and then some of the other projects he's worked about creating collisions. And a collision is kind of these like serendipitous kind of interactions, these encounters that you wouldn't otherwise have unless he had created an opportunity for it. So he was working on this like downtown project in, I think it was Vegas. Do you remember? Do you know anything what I'm talking about? No, okay. He was doing this downtown project in Vegas and investing billions of dollars into it. And one of the big things was to create these spaces, dog parks and like cafes and all these different spaces throughout the city where people could just collide with one another relationally. And so he would get them outside of what they normally would do. So one of the things he did within his within Zappos was he shut down this one bridge that went from like a parking area to the main building. He shut it down so that all the employees had to come through the main entrance, so that they all had to run into each other. They couldn't just trickle in from here and trickle in from here and trickle in from there. They had to collide in this common area to get into work. That's an example of mixing it up to a point where people can collide. So for groups, it's things like, sure, 95% of the time, have your normal group meeting. But every once in a while, do something that creates a collision. Go have a cookout. Go, I don't know, family movie night. Mix it up and just do, women here and guys there, or just do something that shifts it up enough that people have to collide with each other in a way that doesn't normally happen. It's just mixing it up that little bit that says we're going to take a step in this direction so that maybe you normally wouldn't have that conversation with this person, but because we're in this different space, in this different environment, we're having a game night, and now your teammates or your competitors, and now you really get to see a little more authenticity. Like, I don't know about you, but when game night happens, like, people's true colors come out. Like, you really get to start to see who people are. My wife is a totally different person when we're playing Mario Kart than she is when we're not. Totally, personality switch, everything. I don't like my wife as much when we're playing Mario Kart, if I'm honest. No, I love my wife. She's a counselor, and I married her because she's a counselor. No, I married her because she's but does that make sense what I'm saying? Creating those collisions. There's these opportunities you can create that put people in different situations than they're normally used to being in with this group of people. It's just a way of getting people a little outside their comfort zone. Maybe normally it's that thing, you have a circle and everybody sits in the same seat on the couch every week. Well, 1 week, change the shape of the living room. I don't know, do something where you got to mix it up. Make everybody sit on the floor. I don't know. Do something that mixes it up so people have to collide with each other in a different way. So game nights, guys versus girls nights, movie nights, camping. Maybe you guys do camping. I don't know. Go do a camping trip together. Go hiking, right? Go do something you wouldn't normally do. Third thing is invite interruptions. That one sounds weird, doesn't it? Like, why would I want to be interrupted? But interruptions can be really good things for community. I remember one of the very first groups I led, we were doing a study through the book of James. We were just going kind of line by line through the book of James. And I remember I would come in, I'd have my notes. I knew what I was teaching, outline, whole deal. I was so ready to go, and I was so eager to get through it all. And we were maybe 5 minutes in, and this one girl just broke down crying. She had gotten a text message, just devastating news. And I'll be honest with you, I'll be a little authentic. I wanted to just have somebody go take her to another room so I could finish my notes. Not proud of that moment. That's thankfully not what happened. Thankfully, there was somebody in the group who was like, Dave, you're an idiot. We need to stop and pray for this girl. And that's what we did. And you know what? That's all we did for the next 45 minutes, was pray for her, counsel her, help her walk through it. We stopped everything. We were okay with I wasn't at first, but I became okay with the interruption to be able to engage. And you know what? It was a catalytic moment in our group. It was a moment that instantly deepened what we were doing there. It shared, I'm about to start unpacking things that I didn't plan on unpacking. But there's these things called belonging cues. They've done all this scientific research on how to build healthy culture. There's a book called Culture Code that I'd recommend you reading if you're interested. It has a few choice words in it, but it's good content otherwise. Talks about this idea of belonging cues, that there are these body language things and these words that can be said and these certain things you can create that create cues to other people that they belong here. Being willing to pause and be interrupted to engage with somebody is a huge belonging cue. That's huge. That says you belong here. We care about you more than any kind of script we feel like we need to get through. We're here for each other, not for a series of content. And so being willing to be interrupted, being almost like a little excited when you get interrupted for the right reasons. Being almost like, okay, this might be that opportunity. Let's go with this. Okay, now, if somebody's going down a rabbit trail and they're just constantly cutting off and going to, that's a whole different discussion. That's not what I'm talking about. That's another training point we can have about how to deal with difficult people who won't shut up. Stop talking. Stop it. And how you can work through that. Quite honestly, quick version of that story is just that's something where you need to have a conversation with that person. Just pull them to the side, or maybe say, hey, could you show up a few minutes early, or could you stay a few minutes after? I'd love to talk with you about something. And you just try this at first. If it doesn't work, you've got to go, DEFCON 4 or whatever. You got to go a little higher. But the first attempt is just, hey, you know what? I appreciate so much that you have so much to offer, that you've got a lot of stuff you'd like to say. And you know what? We really learn from that a lot of times. Can you help me with something, though? I'm really trying to get the rest of the group more engaged and contributing more like you are. And so I need you to hold back just a little bit sometimes and give space for other people to talk first. And if nobody says anything, then we'd love to hear what you say. But you got to stay quiet for the first minute and a half after the question's asked. Okay? And you just start that. I need you to help me build the community of this group by shutting up. Don't say the last part. But that's what you're just inviting them. I need your help. I see what you're bringing. I need your help in letting other people get involved. Because you know what it feels like. You can say, you know what it feels like. You feel so good when you feel like you've contributed something to the group. We want everybody to feel like that. Would you help me do that? Start there. If that doesn't work, it's a different conversation the second time. Anyways, invite interruptions. That was free. That wasn't even in the notes. See, you got more than you paid for. Invite interruptions. The second, this is like the 15th. Serve together. You want to take an extra step deeper into community, a deeper layer of community, serve together. Get involved in outreach. Get plugged into Hope for All. Right, Marjorie? Marjorie's our outreach director, and so I'm just placating her. No, I'm just kidding. I truly believe you serve at groups. It is proven. Groups of people that serve together build better community together. It just is a fact. It just is how it works. So you want to take a step into a deeper layer of community, serve together. Maybe you all join the same team. Maybe you all go pick Hope for All on a Saturday morning, and you go down there and you help do what they're doing down there, or 10-12 Sports, or any of our outreach partners. Or maybe you go, you know what? Community Park's looking a little trashy. You know what we're going to do today? We're going to go down, or we're going to pick a Saturday. We're going to go down there. We're going to clean the whole thing up. You do that, and you see this catalytic moment. There are people in this room that could testify to you about not only the benefit they were able to give to a community or another group of people, but what it brought to their own group's community. I mean, how many people in here can testify to seeing that change the dynamic of their group? Absolutely. And the rest of you haven't even tried. No, I'm just kidding. And so serve together. Movement team, get on a team together, do an outreach project together, or pick an outreach and own it together. Like say, hey, our thing is going to be we do this regularly, and see what happens to your group. The last thing I would say is this. Not only create collisions, but there is a certain thing to creating organized chaos. Here's what I mean by that. The feel can be, and we've felt this here as the staff on church, is we've got to make sure everything looks like it's running. Like we want everything to run perfectly and smoothly all the time. We got to make sure all the holes are filled, even if it means we're going to work more than we're supposed to work, or we've got to do more. We're going to make sure everything looks right. And that is fine, for the outside appearance, but it doesn't do anything for the actual health of the church. What needs to be done, and what has been done in many places and many times over the years, is you've got to almost create a little bit of chaos. You got to show a little bit of, hey, there's a hole here. We're missing something here. I'm intentionally not going to step into that hole because I need you to see that hole. And you create an opportunity by doing that for somebody who didn't think they were needed to go, you know what, I think I could fill that hole. And for them to step up in. And so there are so many leaders that have been born out of this kind of organized chaos of saying, you know what, I'm intentionally going to let that go undone. Like as simple as, and I've seen it happen, as simple as I'm not going to organize the snack for the week. We're going to go without a snack until somebody recognizes that we've gone without a snack and they bring a snack. Like, that's such a silly, simple example, but that's a simple thing you could do to create a little bit of space, a little bit of opportunity, a little bit of like, hey, wait, what's going on here? This doesn't feel like it's running super smooth. Yeah, it's not, because I need help. I need help. So here you go. You know what I mean? Creating the opportunity for somebody to step in to help with the outreach, to somebody to step in to help with organizing if you've got to set up chairs or whatever. Like, you create a little bit of chaos. And part of this, I think, is where I can start to address Ben's question, is this is a complicated thing, what we're talking about in terms of how do you build long-term community and at the same time continue to multiply groups? Because they seem like diametrically opposed, right? Like, how can I build long-term community if the plan is that we're going to remove part of this group at some point? Like, I thought the point was to keep this group together so we could have long-term community. That feels really wonky. And quite honestly, it's the like bane of every group pastor's existence, is how do you have this balance? Like, it's another one of those tensions like we had with community versus growth, of how do you balance these things? And I think one of the things is, one, remembering we've got to keep the overall vision. Like, community groups is a thing we do. Groups are a thing. It's not the thing. The thing is reach the lost and make disciples. The thing is make much of Jesus. The thing is preach his gospel everywhere you go. Okay, that's the thing. A thing we do with that is we meet in small groups together. And it's an important thing. It's a needed thing. And so keeping the vision of, hey, you know what? We're here, and we're here to build community, but we're not here to just be here for ourselves. That yes, it's a community group, but in a lot of ways, it's a missional community. It's a community that's saying, hey, we're here together for each other. We want to one another each other, but we're still a community that's on the mission to reach the lost and make disciples. And so what that necessitates, what has to happen if you're on that mission, is there comes a certain point where you've got to maybe create that opportunity and go, you know what? You've got to call somebody aside and go, hey, I see this in you. I think God's put something in you to be able to lead a group. And I want to help build you up so you can go start your own group. And I know that feels like, oh man, we're losing an important key member of our group. But to be able to continue to facilitate the mission, that has to happen sometimes. You know what? We're meeting in this area of Pasadena, but we don't have any groups in that area of Pasadena, and we would love to reach that area of Pasadena. And so you know what? You live there, and you're gifted there. And so I want to call that out of you, and while it's going to hurt here, it furthers the kingdom there, and guess what? We can still get together every once in a while. It doesn't mean you're dead and gone. We're not sending you to Uganda. We're sending you down the street. Like, so I hear it, and it's always going to be a painful thing. It's always going to be a little bit of, oh man, we're not talking about, oh, you've got to take half the group, or we've got to bust this thing up and all together. We're talking about sending some people out. And it comes back to, what is the mission? The mission is to reach the lost to make disciples.
I think it's along the line, we're kind of ease that know of every group, like early on, and say, hey, that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's not like 3 or 4 years into it, and you're like, oh wait, take this, and it might catch on surprise.
Yeah.
The mission is like clear. Hey, this is the mission. We love this happen one day. I think it helps
Mm-hmm.
prepare them emotionally for that time. And be like, hey, captain's order, or
Right. Absolutely. And one of the things we want to do too, as we develop this community group thing, is get to a point where there's I don't know what to call it yet. I've been calling it zones just because I haven't thought of a better word for it yet. But almost like there are certain areas, whether that's by like zip code or like certain communities, that if your group meets within that, you've got like a leader that's over that, that's also coordinating like bigger group meeting where like 3 or 4 groups can all get together on a Saturday and hang out, like continue to have community that way as well, so that there could be opportunities to stay connected through some of that stuff. But I would 100% agree, like, be upfront with your group. Like, hey, yes, we want to build long-term community, but you got to keep the mission at the front of everything we do. Our 4 values are 4 values for a reason. That Jesus is our message, people are our passion, growth is our goal, and contributing is our privilege. And those values inform what we do in groups as well. That we're always going to keep Jesus at the forefront. We're going to be passionate about connecting people to each other and connecting people to Jesus. That we're going to seek to grow as disciples. And part of some people's growth is that they need to step out and become a leader. And so it all kind of comes back to just, it's holding some things in balance. It's holding some things in the back of our mind to be able to work through. And so creating some of that organized chaos. It can be a way of continuing to keep a group together while at the same time starting to plant some other groups and be real intentional about seeing things multiply. If you're doing something really, really well, if you're doing something where for the past 2 years or whatever it might be, your group has been super healthy, man, we need more of that. We want you to be raising up people because whatever you're doing, we need more of. And so that has to still be a part of the process. It's always going to be painful and uncomfortable. I wish there was something I could do about that. But there's not. I was talking to one group pastor about this idea. And he was like, group leaders started calling me Darth Vader. He was like, because they felt like every time they saw me coming, I was coming to slice their group in half. And that's not what we're trying to do. I'm not trying to be Darth Vader, slicing groups in half. But we are on a mission, and we are going to accomplish it. And so that is going to be part of the process still. Now, I will say it'll be different than how we've approached it before, where it was like, okay, we need, 1 person for every 10 people in your group. We need you to identify as a protege in the first 4 weeks of your group. Like, I look back on some things I've done over the past couple of years, and I just shake my head at myself. Like, I don't even know what was happening with that. That's not what we're talking about. We're not trying to multiply your group every 4 months. But over the course of a couple years, yeah, I feel like we should be able to find somebody who can step out and start something new. And my hope would be that we're keeping the mission and the vision in front of people enough that that's naturally rising up in some people to go, you know what? I love this group of people, but I'm called to go start something new. And so I want to keep that in front of people so that we don't have to go, hey, you're out. We're kicking you out so you can go start something else. But it can be, hey, guys, I think it's time for me to move to be able to go plant this new thing. Yeah.
Maybe you would have covered this question about, you have this community discipleship, and you're kind of moving to more like community roots. How do you instill that discipleship piece? I feel like I've been in so many groups where we get together, good conversation, that sermon was great. But I don't know them, like, those conversations don't happen. Like, right, what are they doing? How are their neighbors going? Or what's going on in security? All this kind of stuff. How do you get those sections? I feel like that's the most important. One section, not just good friendships.
Yeah.
That's what I
This is a great question. I think one of the things I'm trying to do here, I read this in a John Maxwell book. John Maxwell, leadership guy. Anyways, he said what you lack in culture, you'll try to make up for in legislation. What he meant was what isn't already in the culture and the hearts of people, you're going to feel the need to come in and set a bunch of rules and guidelines and guardrails. Okay, do this, don't go this far. But you're going to have to try to legislate your way through it. And I feel like that's what we were starting to do in groups, is we were trying to legislate our way to what we ultimately wanted, instead of we've got to instill this culture in the hearts of our leaders and keep up with that so that that's what comes out. So I say that to say, yes, we are freeing up some of the restrictions that we had put in place before that were meant to be some of these guardrails to try to get us to what you're talking about. What I want to do instead is get that out of the way and then just infuse the culture of, hey, yeah, as a leader, that should, yes, you're building community, but this is always still about discipling people. Growth groups are just more like an intensive. Like, hey, we're gonna for 12 weeks hyper focus on this one area of discipleship. Discipleship still should be happening in your groups. You still should be having those conversations, and yes, seeking to go deeper in these layers so you can get to some of that authentic stuff of, hey, let's address this issue and let's work together on this. So I still want that to happen, and it still needs to happen. I just want to approach it through, let's get the mission and the vision right and get the culture right, and then let that come out through that. Does that line up? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whether they feel they just don't have that mental economy to give, or just the time
Mm-hmm.
they would completely stop.
Yeah.
So I think that's something we need to be careful about.
Hey, we're not looking to pluck people out, not looking to force people into it. Yeah, again, I'm not looking to legislate our way through that anymore. What I want to do is infuse it into you guys to be able to have the heart for the mission and the vision, and that's always in front of people so that the Holy Spirit can light it on fire for the right people, and then they step out and do it, rather than us coming into all right, who are we going to steal from you? This isn't the reaping. Like, we're not coming and, I volunteer as tribute or whatever. Like, we're not doing Hunger Games here. We're doing, let's infuse culture, vision, mission to the point that the Holy Spirit lights it on fire for somebody and they step out and lead. But we can't be passive about that either and just, well, if it happens, it happens. We've still got to intentionally be keeping the vision, the mission in front of people without pressuring them into, you've got to go lead, get out, like that sort of thing. Sandy? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're not looking for addition by subtraction. We are looking for multiplication. And so, hey, we want to work with the leaders too. Like, we want to come, if there's somebody that's like, hey, we want to come alongside of them, help them develop a plan and not just throw them to the wolves. So, any other questions on that? Ken? I'm sorry, do they have to go through what? Uh-huh. No, I mean, we need to ensure that they're a partner. I mean, prerequisites for leading a group, you have to be a partner, which means you have to go through Growth Track. And you have to have been in a group enough for your leader to be able to give a positive recommendation for you. So, agreement with our statement of faith, partner with the church. So, and yeah, we do a group leader like orientation video just to give them the scope of what's being asked for them. So yeah, there's a few steps they have to go through. We want to free up the ability for people to more conveniently lead, but at the same time, we do have to hold a standard. So we've got some things in place for that. Anybody else? Okay, 2 quick things. One is, this is a book that I have read a couple times called Leading Small Groups, How to Gather, Launch, Lead, and Multiply Your Small Group. If you want a copy of this, you let me know and I'll buy you a copy of it. Okay? You can let me know. You can shoot me an email. You can come up to me afterwards, whatever. You let me know. I'll order them in bulk and get them to you if you want them. I found this book to be very helpful. It's got, some of it has some different like options for different styles of leading groups. You might recognize, like it talks about semester-based groups. It talks about more like what we're doing. It talks about a few different options, but the principles in it apply to all of them. So if that's something you're interested in, you'd like to read through that and kind of grow as a group leader in that way, you let me know and I'll buy you one, okay? Second thing is if you are leading a sermon group this semester, or this, as we're launching, I need you to stick around for a minute. I want to talk with something. I got something to give you. So if you're leading a sermon discussion group coming up, I need you to stick around. Everybody else, I'm going to pray out and you're free to go. But I do need this room for a second. So, yes. Oh. Yes. So there's an email going out as well. But on September 3rd, I feel like you'll more clearly give it than I will. Yeah, why don't you come do that? I feel like I'm going to just keep looking to you to double check that I'm right. This is Marjorie, Outreach Director Marjorie. She's got an announcement. We'll also send an email about it.
Okay. All right. So another thing that we look for in the community groups is for you guys to serve together. Dave mentioned that. And we don't want it to be one of those things where you've got to make it up. You've got to figure out what to do, right? So we have some ongoing things that we do with our partners already. And one of them, like Dave said, is Hope for All. The first Saturday of the month is LH Saturday. We own that morning for volunteers. So September 3rd is our next opportunity. It's from 9 to 11. There's two types of volunteers they need. They need people to sort clothing, and they also need people to help deliver furniture. Hope for All helps people transitioning into housing. So they provide them with clothing and housewares as well as furniture. So there's an ongoing sign up. If you go to the outreach webpage, and it says get started, something like that. I think it's the first button there. You will see the opportunity to sign up. So that will be October, November, December. We want to constantly fill those spaces. So it's always one of those things that you can be talking with your group to sign up and serve together.
So the ask specifically for the 3rd is this, because most of you won't have started your groups by then. Some of you are ongoing, and that's fine. The ask is for you as the leader, not necessarily trying to get your whole group to do it, but for you as the leader to go try it out. That's the ask. On September 3rd, if you can, please go serve. It's a taste and see kind of thing. Go try it out, and our hope is that you see the benefit of it, and it becomes something that you're willing to then own with your group as well. So that's the ask. September 3rd, 9 to 11. You can sign up at lighthouse.church/outreach, and there's a button there. I would love for us to start setting the tone and the example, the mission, the vision, the culture of groups being on mission. So that's our ask. So please consider that. We'll send out an email Monday. Yeah, Monday. Following up with that as well. So again, I'm going to pray for us. If you're sermon group leader, please stick around for a second. And if you're not, you're free to go. But you're free to stay and chat, but we just ask that you do it in the hallway. Did you have a quick question? No, I have not. Yeah. There was a question from our last Q&A. He was just following up on. Okay, let me pray for us, and then we'll do that last bit. So, Father, thank you for your goodness, for your grace, for your love, for your mercy, and for what you call us into in community with you, community with one another. Just pray, God, that you would give us wisdom and insight and vision and heart All right, sermon group leaders. So, yeah, get out. You're not leading a sermon. Go. Didn't you have enough time on it? No, just kidding. Just get all whiny. Okay. Is this everybody? I guess so. I'm going to shut these doors. Sorry. Shh. Silence. Oh, thank you.